if you are trying to project a brand and an image that's not authentically you, that is stressful. That's you having a fake persona that you're trying to live up to, and that's not good for your well-being nor your stress levels. My grandma, she always used to say, if you've only got one face, you don't have to try and remember who you need to be.
Welcome to It Comes Down to This. Today's guest is my good friend Gordon Tredgold, a top 15 global leadership expert and creator of the Fast Leadership System. He spent decades simplifying leadership for global organizations and now helps executives drive performance without burnout. I invited Gordon on the show because the way he breaks down leadership is refreshingly direct and insanely useful. In this episode, we talk about what leaders are getting wrong when it comes to delegation, why most teams fail to execute even with a solid plan, and how to turn underperformance into momentum fast. Gordon also shares why accountability is broken in most companies, how to fix it, and what happens when leaders stop managing and start leading. In today's episode, it comes down to this. Leadership doesn't break from lack of effort. It breaks from lack of clarity. Gordon, welcome back to The Marketer. Awesome to have you back again.
My pleasure.
You know, you are the only guest that I have had a second time on The Marketer.
All right, yeah, because I've been on others as well.
That's right. Yes, I've done another number of podcasts in the past, but
yeah,
specifically for The Marketer, you know, a lot of people, I think, probably assume, rightly so, that I am the marketer, and that's why I call the show that. I've been in marketing for 30 years, but really, the marketer is about the marketing people that I bring on my show. And it's a learning show. You know, it's for people that want to look through the topics that we discuss and pick what they want to learn about and engage with, right? So the reason
I think there's more than one way to skin a cat. You know, it's like comedy. You can be Robin Williams or you can be Steve Martin.
Yep.
Completely different, but
totally.
both successful. And you got to find what resonates with you and what works for you.
That's right. And so the people that I bring on the show, I choose people that have a lot of experience, and I also choose people that specialize in specific things, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm having you as my first guest that's been on now twice is because you have so much experience in a lot of things.
You mean I'm old?
We're about the same age, I think. But
if it doesn't start with a 6, we're not the same age.
Okay, well, there's a little difference.
And I need to see you. And if it does, I need to speak to your skincare specialist.
No, but I wanted to bring you back on the show and talk about personal branding because, and building an influence and a community, because you do this like nobody I know.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about personal branding, can you just define that for the audience? Because I think there's a lot of people that have a misconception about what personal branding actually is.
Yeah, so I think so personal branding and influence. I'm a leadership expert, and those two things, whilst they're critical to sales and marketing, they're also critical to leadership, because the personal brand. Yeah, it's difficult, because I was going to say the personal brand is about who you are and how you define yourself, but that's actually not true, because our brand is what people say about us when we're not in the room. So it's the impression of ourselves that we give to people that they then share, and that's why it's important. Because if you've got a great personal brand, and then people say great things about you, that's going to allow you to have influence in your absence. And if you've got a poor personal brand, that's going to put you behind the 8 ball with people before you even get to meet them, because other people have already marked you down as an a-hole or whatever the negative thing is. And our brand is influenced not only by the things we say, but what we do in our actions. I used to have a boss, and he said, my personal brand is that I'm super intelligent. And everybody in the rooms thought his brand is, I'm Mr. 10 minutes late to every meeting. So, because that's what, if you ask him what he thought, he was super intelligent. If you asked us what we thought, he's 10 minutes late to every meeting. That was his brand for us. So this is why it's important, because our brand is what represents us via others when we are not there. And if it's a good brand, awesome. And if it's a bad brand, we don't get a chance to defend it because we're not there. And sometimes we won't even know about that negative brand unless we go and do some research and ask, or somebody's impolite enough to tell us that, yeah, I know you think you're smart, but really you're Mr. 10 minutes late.
Yeah, totally. And, what constitutes a good personal brand and a bad personal brand as it relates to marketing a lot of times can be that you're just not even there, that there's nobody talking to you or about you, I should say. Is that correct?
The interesting concept for me is a good personal brand and a bad personal brand, because I might want to come across as the world's greatest sales guy, but I'm not. So that would be an inauthentic brand. And for me, the whilst I might think that being perceived as a salesperson would be a uh, good thing, the fact that it's not authentic by definition, because if your personal brand isn't authentic to you, people are going to see through that, and then that's going to damage your personal brand and your influence. And I was at an event in Asia, and I was speaking to somebody who was just ranked by Global Gurus, one of the top 5 branding consultants. And somebody said, "Oh, do you speak on stress?" And she said, "No, I don't. I do personal branding." And I was like, "Whoa, time out, time out. You should do, because well-being, if you are trying to project a brand and an image that's not authentically you, that is stressful. That's you having a fake persona that you're trying to live up to, and that's not good for your well-being nor your stress levels." And she looked at me and said, "I never thought of it like that." And I was like, "Yeah, the more authentic it is, the easier it is for you to do." And one of my favorite people of all time, my grandma, she always used to say, if you've only got one face, you don't have to try and remember who you need to be. You can just be. Whereas if you're two-faced, or you have the brand you have the authentic you and the brand you're portraying, you now have to remember who you are for which people. And that's not good for us. So yeah, for me, a good brand is an authentic brand, and that's how it builds influence through trust, because people can trust you.
Right. We call that character,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
your own personal character plays into that. You
Hmm.
don't have to try and be something that you're not. You don't
Correct.
have to fake it till you make it.
Correct.
It's just who you are. And I
The,
think those are the best personal brands. That authenticity is such an important component of it.
Yeah, and when we talk about authenticity, what we're talking about, does your brand reflect your values? And one of the challenges with that is not everybody knows what their values are. They think they know, but you really need to go and do some, and I've done a lot of this myself at various leadership courses and on personal development things, where you try to get to what your values are, and there's what we'd like our values to be and what they actually are, and we need to get that. And one of the things for me, which is I've struggled with it a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. Is one of my fundamental values is I care. And a lot of times people say, as a leader, you've got to be distant, you've got to step back, got to be a little bit dispassionate. Well, I can't do that because I genuinely care. And people say, well, but that looks weak. It's not a strong persona. Yeah, but that's genuinely who I am. And now I'm at that age where it is what it is. I'm going to be I'm going to be who I'm going to be, because it's easier for me to do that. But it took me a long time to see what those values were, and it wasn't that I was authentically inauthentic, because I actually thought the values I was exhibiting were my values. They were just a little bit off. Not nothing too fundamental, but now that I know them, and I can just be in that space. When your values fit like a glove, authenticity. You don't have to be authentic. You don't have to try. You just are. You just are.
So this raises an interesting question for you, because I if you Google, for those of you that are listening, if you Google Gordon Tredgold, you're going to find that he is literally everywhere. There's not a channel that you're not going to find Gordon on and find him
I
quickly.
don't think I'm on Tumblr.
Neither is anybody else. It's all right. But let's say, when we're talking about authenticity and your values and your character, is there anything that you stay away from? Because even though it's still you, and specific, let me give you 2 examples: religion and politics. Or do you, I personally, religion plays a very vital role in my life. And quite honestly, so do politics. I'm very much into politics and stuff. But I find that most people, if I talk to 10 people and I say, would you talk about your religion or your politics to anybody else out there? Oh, no, that's, it's almost.
We had a barbecue yesterday, and 4 people got up and walked away from the table while I was discussing with a very dear Canadian friend politics and a little bit of religion. So I I think you could probably guess at my politics and my religion, given the fact that I genuinely care. It would, but also I'm passionate about that. So when don't expect me to back. If we have a fundamental disagreement, I'm gonna hammer. I'm gonna defend my corner. So I would prefer to stay away from it if I can.
Yeah. And so when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about, when you build a personal brand from a marketing standpoint, and I want to move the conversation. We've kind of defined what a personal brand is. It's really who you are. It's your character. It's everything about you that you want people to see. And now, where do people see that, right? I mean, they're going to see it on a day-to-day basis with interacting with you. But from a social media standpoint, if you are wanting to build your own personal brand across marketing channels, whether that be blogs, YouTube videos, social media posts, all that other kind of stuff, do you put your whole self out there to say, I'm Gordon Tredgold, and these are the things that I care about, these are the things that I believe in, whether you do or not?
I think beliefs are a little bit different, because belief and truth are not always synonymous. you know. So I don't, from a religious perspective, I'm I'm an atheist. Um, but I don't shout that. But what I do, but and if I was a devout Christian, I wouldn't shout that unless I wanted that to be a fundamental piece of my brand, and I was targeting devout Christians. But but I would also, but if Christians were saying, well, how can you be an atheist? I would say that doesn't stop me from practicing the teachings of Jesus. You know, I think I practice more teachings of Jesus than a lot of Christians. So, are you a Christian by belief or by action? You would, so I care. And sometimes I might comment on politics, but I try and stay away from it, because certainly having lived in the US and the UK, the the conversation is so polarized. There's no point in saying that Harris is an idiot or Trump's an idiot, because whoever supports either of those, you're not going to change their opinion, and 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 it has no impact on my business. So I wouldn't necessarily go down that path. But what I do, because it's a personal brand, it has to be about me. So I would show those traits of, I care. I am concerned about people. I am interested in helping and supporting people. Um, but I don't necessarily. I don't necessarily talk about religion. Well, what my religion is or what my religion isn't. So it's your actions define you. So the number of people I say I'm a Christian, and then you look at what they're doing, you're going, in name only. Or I'm a Muslim, in name only. So it's through the actions, really.
Well, Jordan Peterson is really interesting to me because, he's a psychologist, and I frankly couldn't tell you where he stands in his own personal life with religion. Yet I know that he speaks a lot about religion, and that has really kind of evolved into a personal brand of his. But it's not I'm preaching to convert you type of deal. It's more of it's knowledge. I have knowledge, and I'm going to expound upon this knowledge for your benefit, and you can do with what you want with it.
Well,
But
it comes across as controversial,
it does,
and it's like when you're
but not
talking.
combative.
I agree with you, but I think people's perception is that he's combative, because and this was a topic we were talking about yesterday. It was about equality, and he says, well, does that mean that we want 50% of bricklayers to be women? Do you want to have 50% soldiers as women? Do you want 50% mechanics? It's like, no, we want these jobs over here. It's like, all right. So you want equality in the cushy, well-paid jobs, the crappy jobs where men are working outside and it's freezing cold and they're getting paid minimum wage. You don't want to do that. So he's very. I think he's very good at holding up a mirror to people, and they don't like it. And it's like, the conversation I was having with my friend yesterday. She was saying, why did it take 70 years before, after men got the vote, that women got the vote? And I said, so when did men get the vote? I don't know. So how can you say it was 70 years? You'd need to know the date of birth. And I said, because, so I Googled it and I said, in the UK, working class men got the vote in 1918, and women got the vote in 1928. That was 10 years. It's a 10-year gap. Yeah, but, the everything's about white privilege. I was like, yeah, it's 1%. I tell you, all the working class, all of the coal miners that were white don't feel that they were white privileged. They didn't have that vote. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean that the people up here aren't oppressing you, but they're also oppressing a lot of other people as well. And I think Jordan Peterson holds that mirror up, and people don't like it because they have that view of, we don't get equal pay or we don't have equality. Well, okay, inequality in what?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's become Jordan Peterson's personal brand is I do have the ability to hold up a mirror, and that's what our conversation is going to be derived from. I'm going to make a statement about you, basically, and
Yeah,
you're going to look at it and you're going to respond, and that's where the discord is going to come
yeah.
from.
I'm,
But
I'm going to present you with some uncomfortable facts
yes,
that contradict your opinion.
yeah,
And I'm not doing it to be contradictory. I'm doing it to be informative and to advance the debate. And it's like, oh, we don't want that. We
yeah,
we don't want that. We don't want challenging. We just want you to agree with us. Yeah, well, I'm not going to do that.
yeah.
And he, as a research professor, he has got tons of data to back his position up.
Oh,
And yeah,
totally. Yeah, totally.
it's his personal brand. But another good thing about personal brands, it's a good and a bad thing. A good personal brand can make people hate you. But if that's not your market, that's a good, identify your market and go for it. If everybody's your market, you don't have a market. So if you've got that where people love you or hate you, then that's a better brand than people going meh.
No, I totally agree with that, and that's why I'm kind of a proponent of be yourself in everything. If you are, strong or religious, don't hesitate to talk about religion where it fits. If you are strongly political, don't hesitate to talk about religion where it fits. You're always going to have people that are going to not like you. Always. I mean, nobody, you can't avoid that. You can't go out there and talk about cookies every day and not have somebody not like you, right?
So one of the reasons why my brand is reasonably authentic, although as I say, I've had to do a bit of work to tune it in a little bit as I get to know myself, is that my grandmother would never let me get away with anything. And there's a story about my grandma that other people told me, and I confirmed it with her grandma. And I don't know if I've told you this, but in the 50s, after the war, early 50s, she worked, she was working class, worked in a factory as a seamstress, and the whole factory was invited to dinner with the mayor of Leeds. And my grandma was sat about 4 seats away from the mayor, and the waiter was coming round, red wine, white wine, red wine, white wine, and everybody was ordering. And he got to my grandma and he said, "Do you want red or white wine?" And she said, "Do you have any beer?" And my grandfather was absolutely mortified, nearly died of embarrassment. And the mayor just said to her, "Yeah, if you want a beer, have a beer." And my grandma went, "Yeah, I'll have a beer then, please." And as the waiter went back, everybody went, "I'll have a beer, I'll have a beer, I'll have a beer." Yeah, this was the 50s. They drank beer. They didn't drink wine. But
Right.
now you're being inauthentic, accepting a drink you would never drink. And actually,
Yes.
not, "Oh, it's champagne, I'd love a glass." It was kind of like, "I don't really want this, but I'd rather pretend I like it than ask,
Right.
could I have a beer?" Yeah, my
Yeah.
grandma, yeah. Have you got any
I
beer?
love that. I love it.
Got any beer? Yeah. So, as I say, from an early age, I was you weren't allowed to be anything but yourself, and my grandma would slap you. Um,
That's fantastic.
she would bring you back. She would bring you back to reality.
Pretty quick. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But when you are authentic and people can see that, and it's authentic through action, through body language, when people see that, it allows them to build trust with you. And then when
Yeah.
they've got that trust, that allows you to have influence. You know,
That's right.
people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
That's
So
right.
if you're inauthentic, that trust thing is going to be difficult to achieve. And even if you achieve it, it's only going to be temporary. Because when they
Right.
spot that fake,
That's
you're
right.
done. You're done. You're absolutely done.
So let's bring this into conversation about social media and marketing. You know,
Yeah.
does let me ask it this way: who needs a personal brand?
So it's interesting you say that, because when I talk with leaders, I talk about what's your leadership brand, and there are only two types of brand. I don't know if you know this. Defined and accidental. So you've got one, whether you know it or not. And the question is it something that you've helped shape and sorry, not defined, intentional, that you thought, this is what I'd like it to be, this is who I am, and I'll try and influence it. You can't create it because it's what other people say about you. So you can only influence it. Or is it accidental? Are you Mr. 10 minutes late for every meeting? So yeah, if you don't have a personal brand, you do. You just don't know what it is, and you haven't controlled it and shaped it, and it's accidental, and it might not be what you want it to be.
I personally feel like you should always be intentional in shaping
Absolutely,
your brand.
absolutely.
Always. You never want to leave it to, you know what I mean? And that's not
Oh,
that's
leave
not
it to your enemies.
well, right, but it's also not manipulative. You know, it's not
No.
saying, "Oh, I'm going to manipulate my brand into how I want it to be." It's just intentional.
Well,
So,
if your brand's Mr. 10 minutes late, you can manipulate it, or you can clean it up by being on time. So just correct it. The things that you don't like, eliminate them. You know, if you're somebody who is known for stretching the truth a little bit, and you don't, and that's not what you want your brand to be, then stop doing that. You know, be 100% accurate, or accept that you're Mr. Stretch the truth a little bit.
I have a client and um just started working with him, and he uh is in the construction industry, does a lot of rehabbing of large commercial properties and stuff like that that have been abandoned in rural areas. And he actually has no he's one of the first people that I have met who has been very intentional about having no engagement or anything on social media at all. Um, he's he doesn't really even have a website out. He is a face to face handshake, relationship type of guy. But now he wants to grow his business, take it into multiple states, potentially even nationwide at some point. But he literally he is a ghost, if you would, and not even a ghost, because a ghost is technically at one point had to exist.
Yeah.
He's
But
never existed
the
online.
good thing about that is there's nothing to, he has a blank canvas.
That is exactly right. He does have a blank canvas.
Yeah.
But my point was, even in that state, you have a
Yeah.
personal brand.
Yeah.
And it's because anybody that you want to meet and shake a hand with is going to go look you up at some point to find out information about you that you can pretty much find about anybody, and they will find nothing.
So one of my good friends, I think you've met Brenda Benz. She's one of the global gurus. She's the number one on branding, and she was saying it's something like 78% of business comes through recommendation. When people are recommended, 87% of the time they'll go and check your website. And if you don't have a website, that they can't confirm what that other person's told them about you.
That's right. I would take it a step further than that. I would say now that what's even more important than your website are the things that you put out on social media.
Well, she was saying that still 87% of people check the website, but they'll check your social media as well. And if yeah, if your brand is all about care, 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 and then there's multiple pictures of you with a shotgun shooting bears, deers, whatever, that 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 might conflict a little bit with it. And this is one of those things where if and I'm not necessarily saying you can't do both of those, but that might send a conflicting message. But in that case, then don't put that kind of stuff, don't put it on into the internet. If you wouldn't be happy your clients knowing you did something, then don't put it on the internet, because you Google people, you can find their Facebook, their Twitter, their social media, their Instagram.
Correct. And I do think that, you know, people may not take that step immediately. They may just go to your website, and to me, the website is the very intentionally crafted message, right? This is who I say that I want to be, and it's under a brand. Unless you're a coach, unless you're an individual or something that's building your own personal brand. But most people, then you got to go over to their social media to see what they say about themselves. And on the social media should be where the more authentic self is revealed, if you would. Do you agree?
Absolutely, but I think there's three elements to it. There's your website, which you own and you create that. There's social media, Facebook, Twitter, um, Instagram, whatever, and that's a little bit more personal. And then there's LinkedIn, which is less personal and more business. And the three of those, people can look at all three of those, and if there's any deviation between the brand, people people are going to be looking at it and thinking, "What the hell's going on here?" And one of the things that you always tell me that I love is that a confused mind says no. So if you say you're a people-centric coach, and then I'm looking at pictures of you fighting with your spouse at some party, and then on LinkedIn you're saying something different, and I'm looking at it thinking, well, he says this, but he's doing that, and he's getting involved in that. Now Now I'm confused. Now I'm confused. Now I'm saying no.
Exactly right. That's so well said. And I do think, when you look at personal brand, really what you're starting or what you are creating is an ecosystem of content that people can use multiple sources to learn many different things about you, and that ecosystem then, when it is well created and base and ongoing, by the way, personal brand doesn't, you don't build it and now it's done. I think personal brand
You live it. You live
is
it
what you live.
every
Yes.
single day. The personal brand, it takes years to create, seconds to destroy.
Oh, well said. Yeah.
So, you need to keep living it. And the other thing as well is that most of the people on LinkedIn that know me are more business related. There are a few personal friends, but not as many as on Facebook. And I can post things on LinkedIn that are aligned with my brand. And, I speak about leadership, and people will go, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, I agree with you." But if I post something that's inauthentic on Facebook, I have a whole raft of friends who be like, "What are you talking about? Who are you trying to impress? What the hell is this?" So, so the most authentic is probably Facebook, because I can't pretend to be a fake big I am on there, because friends and family will call me out on there. So if I was looking for something, I would want to what does your website say? What does your LinkedIn say? And now, right, let's go and find out who they are on Facebook. And, and if there's pictures of you drunk at Chiefs football games, on every single page with people commenting on the volume of alcohol that you can drink in one sitting, that's going to give me an authentic impression of you, and one you might not like, you might not want me to have. So be careful, be careful what you post.
And not only that, that stuff lives forever. I mean, it's evergreen. It doesn't, it doesn't really go away, does it?
I think there's three things you want to be kind of moving away from: religion, politics, and Puff Diddy. But I'm going to go there. How many people have tried to close their accounts and delete every single message? Because they're now worried that somebody's going to go back and go, here's a picture of you saying something nice about him, and or stood next to him, completely innocent, at an event where now you're going to be questioned.
Yeah. And these days, there's always somebody that's got screenshots and replies and
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
else
yeah,
that,
absolutely.
it's kind of a nightmare if you're,
You can't delete. You can delete what you've posted, but if they then share it,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's out. It's out.
it's
You're
out.
not getting it back.
I must admit, I think for me, one of the things that I appreciate more than anything is that there was no social media during my college years. I think
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I think I would be a lot less well known,
Well,
and
I mean,
quite rightly so. But
you raise a good point. I mean, there's these days, your personal brand can be defined without you even knowing it, um, because of somebody. I mean, you think about, even people who are getting caught in like a road rage incident. There's always a camera going. People are always shooting videos. You can find yourself on something that you never intended yourself to be, and doing something that's not really kind of your character. It's just a moment in time, but now it's out there defining you.
the other thing as well is that we've amped it up a little bit now, because I could go and look on your Facebook, I could look on your LinkedIn, but there's a limit to my time. But Chat GPT, go and give me a brand assessment of Monty Clark. It will go and do that in seconds, and do it back. I mean, I've done some work with people where we read through it and say, what's the I've even done it for myself. Do a brand assessment, tell me what my USP is. So people can use these tools to go and synthesize everything that's out there and then pull you back. And, you could just say, give me 3 pros, 3 cons of Monty Clark, and boom, AI will go and do that. And, yeah, it just reminds me of the joke about the guy that built 1,000 ships. Do they call me Stavros the shipbuilder? No, one sheep. That's all, that's all it took. So all of that positive out there can be undone by by one post, one image. And you know what?
Yeah.
I am ridiculously lucky because I'm the only Gordon Tredgold in the entire world. So
Yeah.
I don't get contaminated with
Yeah.
somebody else's brand.
Yeah.
And you if your name's Dave Smith,
Oh, yeah.
and you can't get, you can ask Chat GPT to go and do an analysis, but it's going to be pulling back thousands of Dave Smiths.
No, that's true. But you can also give ChatGPT now, and I'm glad you brought this up because this is really interesting. You can give ChatGPT like your LinkedIn address and have it go analyze that. Now, can you have it?
download all of your posts into an Excel or a PDF,
Yes,
and
yes.
then just get Chat GPT, boom, to go do it.
Now, I know.
I'm going to
So
tell you
is
about
this the
another
future, by the
tool.
way?
I'm going to tell you about another tool in a second that will you might not have heard of, but go on.
Oh, fantastic! I want to hear that. But is this the future? Are HR people, are headhunters going to be downloading
Oh,
people's content and say, "Give me
do
the
you know why?
positives and
Do you know
negatives of
one of the
this"?
reasons? Do you know one of the reasons why I'm a leadership expert? I don't know if we've talked about this. So I'm the only Gordon Tredgold in the entire world. Bizarre, but true. Nothing good, nothing bad, just true. And I was about 12 years ago, I was looking for a job, looking at change, and somebody said, "Oh, people will Google you." I was like, "Really?" I was like, this was like 2010, 2009. I was like, "Really?" Yeah. Ooh, I'll Google myself. And it was just tumbleweed. And I thought, wow, I need to fill this stuff. And given I'm going for leadership positions, maybe I should start a leadership blog and go, hey, look, I know a lot about leadership, which it was authentic because I did. Probably not as much as I was claiming at that time, but I've grown. But I've grown into that. So yeah, they will absolutely Google you. I've gone and done coaching with a client, or done a workshop, and all of the people on that workshop have Googled me before I've come in. They've looked at YouTube videos of me to get an idea. Does this guy know what he's talking about? Does he not know what he's talking about? So I want to tell you about a tool that I was introduced to last week, and it's called Google Notebook LM.
Oh, yes. I was introduced to it last week too.
So this is what I did with Google Notebook LM. I took a PDF of my book Fast.
Yeah.
I loaded that in. I put my resume in. I copied, I think it was 50 testimonials that I got into it. And then I said, I want you to create a podcast with two experts, and these are the questions I want you to ask. And it created a 15-minute podcast going, that Tredgold guy, he makes a really good point about authenticity. Oh, yeah, I read that in his book, blah, 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 blah. So you were able to create an AI podcast about yourself based on content that you give it, pointing it in a direction you want it to go. And I did that. I was like, wow, this is scary stuff. And what I couldn't do, what we were told to do, apparently there's a way you can get 5 people onto that podcast, but you don't do it as a podcast, you do it as a learning tool. And what you do is you say, I want the world's best marketer, I want the world's best salesperson, I want the world's best branding and positioning, I want my ideal client, and you describe them, and then maybe another ideal client. And then you say, and I want you to do a podcast on how you would position, market, and sell my book to my 2 ideal clients. And it'll create a conversation between them all that you can then listen to get ideas on. Ooh, I hadn't thought about that.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
So
I'm looking for the instructions on how to do that, but I've done it with the 2 people, and if I can dig it out, I'll send you the podcast.
yeah,
It
I would love to hear
was
that.
eye opening,
So
but that's the way of me. That's now kind of that next generation. Your brand
totally,
is what people say about you when you're not there.
that's right.
But now I'm not there, but I'm the orchestrator of that
Of what's
podcast
being said.
of
Yeah.
me when I'm not there.
That is crazy. I'll tell you how we're using it. At the time that people will be listening to this will be
Yeah.
post edit, production, everything else. At the 5-minute mark, there will be commercial, and you've already heard it if you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
That commercial was created with the Google LMN. and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
It's two people talking about podcasting, and it's two fictional people, but they're
yeah,
talking about podcasting. And oh, by the way, there's this company. Have you heard about them?
yeah.
And it's just
And
amazing.
you wouldn't know it was AI.
No,
It's
you wouldn't
just
know it was AI.
it's normal voices, normal
That's right.
conversation.
And they
Uh,
have normal inflections in their voice,
yeah,
and it's in tone. And the other thing is, we didn't give them the copy. You just feed them information.
yeah.
The AI writes it itself.
It reads through it all. And yeah, as you say, they read my book and then they talked about it and they go, I really like that example where he was talking about that Swedish ship and the lack of
Yeah.
accountability that
Yeah.
caused it to sink on its maiden voyage. Can you imagine that? And I was like, wow.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to follow your lead on that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to drop my book into there, and everything else that I can give it. I'm going to see if I can make a conversation about it. That'd be fun.
Well, and what the people that were telling me was like, then you just upload that to YouTube, and then
Oh yeah.
it's kind of like an advert for it, but it looks like it's an independent. Now
Yes.
they've read the book, and they've pulled some. What they're saying is correct, but it's still crafted.
Yeah. Now, here's what I think about it too. I mean, what would be fun is to create something like that, but then interject your own voice, to slice your own voice into it as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Have them interview you, and then
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
So, I mean, there's so much of this stuff that's going to come, and the ongoing with
Oh,
AI, it's
tip
going to
of
be
the
unbelievable.
tip of the iceberg, tip of the
Yeah.
iceberg. And there's a lot of with I think one of the challenges with branding is that you want to be consistent. If you know what your brand is, you want to be consistent, but it's difficult to post every day. Not if you've gone into Chat GPT. And I'll tell you something else about Chat GPT, which I found a little bit scary. Um, but you can go to Chat GPT, you can give it your book, and I did this, and I just went, pull me 40 quotes out of my book on results-based leadership, and it went bang, 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 bang. Now I've got content aligned with the brand that I can do every day, and then I can just say to it, go and look on the internet and find me topics and things that I could comment on that are aligned with my brand. And you actually write what you think. You write what would be aligned with my brand in
Yes.
relation to that. And now you've got content. You can generate content every single day that's
Yeah.
completely aligned. So
Yeah. And you can tell it to write it, and it'll learn your voice. You give
yeah,
it your book, it's learned your voice.
I so a couple of things I did with AI. I just like, I want to rewrite some of these, just spruce them up a little bit. So I said to AI, how many of my articles would you need to write before you could mimic me? And it was like 10. I was like, okay. So I put 10 in, and then I would give it an article and say, rewrite that as if I wrote it. I was like, and then it did it, and people were like, yeah, but you can tell. I was like, I couldn't.
Yeah.
It looked like I wrote it. But the
Yeah.
thing that really scared me from an authenticity, talking about faking authenticity. So I have a degree in mathematics, 35 years, worked senior VP. So I'm in the top 1% in terms of education, IQ, all that kind of stuff. And I don't say that to brag or be big-headed. I say that as a warning. And I went into Chat GPT, and I was like, people going, oh, Chat GPT, it'll replace us all. So I said, Chat GPT, how many questions would you have to ask me and for me to answer accurately before you could answer on my behalf? And it was like 20. It's like 20. Yeah, 20 with probably 10 more specific questions. I was like, Via. And so I thought, you know what? It's Sunday. I live in Spain. The football doesn't come on for another 6 hours. I've got time to kill. Okay, ask me those questions. So I answered all the 20 questions and it came back and it was like, okay, we're going to ask you 10 more. What do you think about this? Blah, 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 blah. What do you think? And then what do you think about this? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, any more questions? And we're good. And it was about 36, 37 questions. And then I said, what do you think I think about diversity and inclusion? And it came back with a blah, 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 blah. I was like, yeah, that is, yeah. So I have an authentic me, I would say about 90% authentic me in Chat GPT, where I can ask it, what do I think about this? How do you, I've got a coaching client who's asked me this. You know what? I can't be bothered thinking about that. Could you think about that for me and tell me how I'd respond? I'll read that response and go, yeah, that feels about right.
So have you discovered that you can reach the end of a conversation with GPT yet?
What do you mean?
So I took a client and I trained it. I trained GPT all about this client. I had it look at all kinds of things. I had it ask me all kinds of questions, and then I started using it to do all sorts of stuff for this client. Well, and I would continue these processes over and over on different things. We do podcasting, so a lot of things we can do with GPT. And it got to the point, and I've got a paid account, of course, but it got to the point where it said, your chat is too long. You have to start a new chat.
Yeah. So I got it to read. So I got it to read my book, and I'm writing another book, and one of the chapters is a summary of it. And I was like, what would we take out of this, and how would we do this? And I could share it with you. Where ChatGPT was like, I said, just do me 5,000 words I can look at that would be, a good summary for that I would put in. Then I'll have a look at it and I'll tweak it as I go. And it was like, yeah. I was like, and download it into a PDF when you finish. It was like, yeah, working on it. And I was like, so where are we? And he went, well, it's harder than I thought, and I'm a bit busy with other stuff. I'm like, what do you mean you're busy with other stuff? And he went, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'll get right on it. I was like, okay, I want an update. How long do you think it will take? It'll take me about 2 hours. I was like, but I thought ChatGPT was supposed to be quick. It was like, this is complex, man. I was like, complex? You're supposed to be blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm disappointing you, but it'll be 2 hours. I went, okay, I want 5,000 words, and I want you to check in with me every 15 minutes on where you are. And then I go away, and I come back half an hour later. I was like, hey, where's my check-in? He was like, oh, sorry, I forgot about it. Let me get back to it. Well, how many words have you done? Well, I've been really busy. How many words have you done? 1,200. You had done 1,200 before. You haven't added a single. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll start again. I was like, don't start again. Don't start again. And I've got this whole, and over a 15-hour period, there's me going back, and it feels like me, with a conversation with my 11-year-old son, and we're trying to get him to do his homework, and he clearly didn't want to do it and wasn't prepared.
That's so good.
I'm like, man, I was like, you do realize I'm paying for this. I was like, I'm sorry if I'm disappointed you, but I don't think you realize how hard this is. But you're doing a summary. Just calm down. What's so hard about this? I was like, you know what? I could have written it myself by now. And the good thing was, it didn't say, well, why didn't you?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was like playing with it. I was pushing it, and it was, but the chat was just too. The
Yeah.
chat was just full, and it
Yeah.
had nowhere to go. So I went back, give it the book again. I went, okay, give me a 2,000 word piece on this bit, and then another bit, and
Yes.
another bit, and another
Yes.
bit, and it was okay.
Yeah. That's what I've found too. There are limitations, and you've got to be able to work creatively.
And sometimes its answers are just, it's like, seriously,
Yeah, I know.
all that money, and that's what you've come up with.
Exactly. So, back to what
But
you were saying about
from that authenticity, I've now created something that's
right.
authentically me. But is it?
Yes, that is the question. And to that point though, you can train it on your voice, you can train it, and it works so well on things that you just feed it, right? But then once it creates it, even if it's in your own voice, there's another tool. It's called like human author or human speaker or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but you then plug your AI copy into that, and then it takes all the kind of the AI speak out of it, even though you have it trained, and it puts it more in how people actually talk.
Well, or how I've trained it to. I've got one chat that it puts it in Gordon speak. So I'll write something. I'll kind of like do the first draft and put it in that. And somebody said to me, "But don't you think that that's inauthentic?" I was like, "But I've written 3 books, and I had ghostwriters, copy editors, and editors go through it, correcting things. ChatGPT is just doing their job." So I'm not getting it to write the book for me. You've got to know where you're going. You put the meat in that it then expands on. It's not like you're just saying, "Write me a book on what? Write me a bestseller," and off it goes. It's
No, I fully agree with you. I think it is a great tool, used appropriately. I think it's, as you said, there's going to be more and more and more tools that are going to make things easier.
one of the things that's interesting. So I just signed up with a PR agency to do more pitches and generate a little bit more visibility in some of the other markets, things like TV and radio that I haven't really attracted. And one of their things is, do not use AI for any pitches, because both we and the people that you're targeting will use tools to understand, is that authentically you, or is it ChatGPT?
Yeah, and see, I don't understand how that's why I brought up that human speaker and stuff like that, how they can determine, and even to our what we were just saying, what difference does it make? Because, if you're doing pitches, the AI is just going to, it's not like it's looking through something and finding code.
But I think what we're so what we're talking about really now, bringing this right back, is they can, you could just go to ChatGPT and say, "This is what Gordon Tredgold's pitched me. Can you go review his LinkedIn profile, his website, his social media, and see whether this is what he really thinks? Is this authentically him or not?" So
Right.
I think a lot of, there'll be a lot of, given the importance of authenticity, I think people will now start to use tools to validate
Oh, I do agree with that. Yep.
your authenticity, and see whether, are you who you claim to be,
Yes, I agree with
or
that.
are
Mhm.
you augmented
Yep.
intelligence
Have
from
you created a
AI?
false picture of yourself
Correct. Yeah. Is this a fake
using,
persona, fake
yes.
credibility?
No, I agree with that. And
One of my favorite fake stories was, there was a speaker that I knew, and he was when we first got into it, he was the first international keynote speaker that I knew. And I was like, wow, international keynote speaker. And he said, I was best man at my brother's wedding in Scotland. So you did a speech in another country at your brother's wedding? Yeah. Yeah, international keynote speaker sounds about right. But if you've got tools that can go and check that, I was like, he hasn't. There's no record of him ever having spoken abroad other than at his brother's wedding. Now your credibility down the.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think just as much as you're going to have AI tools that are going to do a lot of things for you, I think they're going to start inventing more and more AI tools to, basically keep people honest.
But we see that all the time, don't you? Award-winning speaker, award-winning. So, from who? From where? Show me the award. I mean, I used to work with for DHL in Arizona, and the CIO. 2 years in a row, he was ranked number 3 and number 2 CIO in North America, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then his secretary said it's his own PR agency that created the list, and they felt putting him at number 1 would be a little bit too obvious, so they put him at 2 and 3. But it helped him land jobs. Whereas now, you can just go, can you tell us who's that? Monty Clark ranks Monty Clark number 1 marketing expert in the world. Yeah, in terms of trust, credibility, and influence. This is why I do think our brand's got to be authentic. It's got to be predictable. If it ain't predictable, it ain't authentic, and it's got to stand up to that kind of scrutiny, because people are gonna do that. And you might think, oh, no, we're not. Hey, every time when I'm going to a restaurant, I'm on TripAdvisor looking to see what the ratings are, and if it's 3 stars, I ain't going. And it's going to be the same. And it's going to be the same with a lot of people. Their brand, their reputation is going to be reviewed, and if it doesn't stand up to scrutiny, or if it's accidental, and it paints a different picture to what you're telling me.
That's exactly right. This is an excellent stopping point for the show too, because just to sum it up, you do need to have a personal brand.
You have a personal brand.
Yeah, well said. You have a personal brand now. From a marketing and communication standpoint, it's an ever-evolving thing, just like your life, that daily you establish and grow. There are tools to make it easier, as long as you're authentic in using them. And, that it's important, and it will always be important, whether you're an employee at a company, whether you run your own business, or whether you don't want to be on social media at all.
Yeah.
You need to think about how you are establishing your brand and what you're doing with it. Any last word?
I would come back and say, the old adage, people do business who they know, like, and trust. And if you ain't on social media, we don't know you.
That's exactly right.
Let alone like or trust, we don't know you. So
That's
you've
right.
got to be on social media. It's got to be authentic so that we can trust you. And if you're aligned with us and what you do resonates, then the like will come, and that'll help you, generate business and win clients.
Gordon, you never disappoint. This is exactly why I wanted to have you on again.
I had no idea where the conversation was going to go when we started, but we got there in the end.
I feel like it went exactly how it was supposed to go. And, if there was great information, things that I learned along the way too. You're a brilliant guest. Thank you for coming on the show again. And
My
for
pleasure.
everybody that's listening, I hope you got as much value out of this as I did, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.